rape children as young as 4 in front of their parents and put acid into their rectums. Go read it. Oh, we're the good guys. Jack Bauer does that. That's how you fight Al-Qaeda. Raping 5-year-old children. I mean, I hate to talk about this on air. This is the pit demons that run our government. The absolute, total demons of hell. And they want to drop the hammer first before they start arresting people and doing it to us. And I got news for the system. You're getting rid of the rule of law and everything else. I don't. It's just all a complete fraud. The whole thing's illegitimate. And I know the average cop's a good guy, the average military. Doesn't matter. I'm sure there were nice cops in Nazi Germany and nice military. You work for a hijacked government. I've explained this before. If you got on a city bus and a guy ran into the bus with a machine gun and dynamite around their chest and said, "I'm taking over," and he pistol whipped the driver and put on the driver's uniform, would you just immediately do whatever he said? Studies show, you can pull this up with Stockholm Syndrome, been around forever, but they just named it, that about, 45% will totally submit and love the guy with the dynamite tied to him. See, I'm the bad man. I don't like the guy because he's wearing the bus driver cap with the dynamite strapped to him. I'm like, hey, you're not the bus driver, pal. You're a treasonous usurper. And they're like, I'll light the dynamite. And at a certain point, you've got to just deal with it. You can't just keep giving in to these terrorists who terrorize us with the terrorism. I mean, let's say you believe the terrorism's all real, and you ignore the fact that Al-Qaeda was created by the criminals that run our government and is being given control of all these countries right now and all the rest of this. Let's just say, okay, it's all real. Okay, we're going to do a piece actually tonight where you've got a better chance. We've got the statistics from the Justice Department, from World Almanac and others. You got a better chance of a vending machine falling over on you than being killed by terrorists. You've got a better chance of being struck by lightning. I mean, you know the statistics. We're going to show a whole bunch of them tonight. You got a better chance of being eaten by an American alligator, which is very rare. So, but it's not rare to be killed by an elephant or a hippopotamus if you live in Africa. We're going to get into those numbers. Much better chance of dying from a rattlesnake bite here in the U.S. than being killed by terrorists. So there's the whole hoax of our whole society changes, and the police are dressed in black uniforms, and there's checkpoints being set up, and they're groping our wives and daughters and children because of terrorism. And then in every case, you find out the government opens the door for the patsy lunatics that they use to attack us. And it's back in the news today where the criminals that run our government are funding terrorists. So at a primitive level, people look different than us, different culture, and there's all these shows and South Park and Team America, and it's fun to get into fear of the Muslims. And, okay, well, then why is the government bringing them in record numbers? I mean, if they're just all absolute devils who want to slit our throats. Okay, let's expand on that. If that's the case, then I mean, how do you square up Anwar al-Awlaki, number 3 in Al-Qaeda, meeting secretly at the Pentagon? How do you square up the head of the 7/7 bombers on record being MI6, Fox News, London Telegraph? Former FBI top chief, Loftus, exposing that. They're not all terrorists at the FBI. Got Mr. German from the FBI going public years ago saying they're getting ready for martial law. In Ventura's martial law piece, that's why the show was banned, because the show was 99% on target. It was bullseye, baby. You got the bullseye right in the middle of the dartboard. It was 90% into the red, barely touching the next ring. That show was so on target. And they're like, that's not airing again. This is a complete blueprint for what we're doing. I mean, it's not like we don't know the FEMA camp plan. We have the congressional hearings. We have the Wall Street Journal. We have the purchase orders. We have all this. But you notice when they put out bids for FEMA camps in 2006 for civil emergency and catastrophic attacks and civil disorder, that at least the Wall Street Journal said, oh, look, here's giant bids to build FEMA camps. Now that they got Department of Defense under Rural Affairs running it, designating government employees as blue, U.S. citizens as red, in the same designation as Iraq and Afghanistan, where they're wearing transponders, and they talk about, deploying forces, barricades, delivering. I mean, it's all for the drones. GPS at your front door. Even I can't believe this, to actually see it happening and to see them now flipping the power switches on. It's one thing to have a gun in the gun case. But now they've gone to the combination. They've opened it. They've gotten the M14 out. They've taken a loaded cartridge, and they've jammed it in, and they're now loading around in, chambering around. And now they're pointing it at us. And the documents say they're going to pull the trigger because they've designed the implosion. And in the implosion, the police, the military, everybody who goes along with this, you destroy yourself as well. It's not like you're having martial law because a nuke went off from real terrorists or a meteor hit us or there was giant, 10.5 earthquakes all over the U.S. or something. And then there's looting and whatever, and the troops have got to be called out. This isn't some legitimate contingency plan. This is a controlled demolition on record for a post-industrial America by criminal terrorist banking oligarchs who publicly created the 1.5 quadrillion that had our treasonous government sign on to it. This is bondage. This is economic conquest with a paramilitary backup behind it. Now, we're 44 minutes into this transmission, and I'm going to open the phones up for the entire second hour ahead of Don Browning, one of the cops they haven't killed yet, who has the courage to come on. He's a retired Oklahoma City police officer, U.S. Marine and Vietnam veteran. Don worked with a K-9 unit, was part of the search and rescue team at the Murrah building after the bombing. And they've talked to a bunch of cops off record and Department of Defense bomb disposal people. But a lot of them are on record in this film, including the inventor of the neutron bomb, the former head of Air Force Weapons Development, and others saying there were bombs in the building. We have newscasts where they're removing them before they got their talking points straight. And they went to these cops and others, and they said, we know where your daughter goes to school. We know where your son goes. We're going to kill him. Can you imagine being a cop or a Department of Defense bomb disposal, and you're like, these are bombs in here. And they're like, your daughter, Jenny, who goes to school here. You want us to kill her? We got a file on you. I mean, I don't know what, somebody threatened to kill my kids right there. I mean, I'm not Mr. Tough Guy, folks, but let me tell you something. Whew. Imagine being a cop and the guy is threatening you or threatening your family. This is who runs America. And there's not that many of them. The criminals at the top always give us a ledger, a story, a fable to follow what they're saying and doing. But if you ever look at it from just another angle, you find out, oh, I'm not doing this because of the reason they say. I'm compartmentalized. I'm doing it because these are a bunch of knuckle-dragging crooks. I talked to some top financial experts off the record yesterday. I may be able to get the guy on this Sunday. I'm going to be on Christmas. New show, Christmas premiere. And because these are times we got to get the information out. And the word is in D.C. and New York, Corzine is going to be allowed to keep the money. In London bank accounts, he's put it in. And this is the new precedent where they're just going to take everything publicly and not get in trouble. So our worst fears are being confirmed there. I mean, you want to live in a world like that where you got some little dwarf, demonic, pig-faced person, little soft, chicken neck, not living in reality, Kim Jong-il running your life? Because giving in to government, that's what it does. How did the North Koreans set up the greatest police state dehumanization grid in human history? How did the North Koreans do that? They had been, at the end of World War II, already starving. Then the communists, Chinese, and Russians backed them. There was a huge war, which hundreds and hundreds of thousands died on both sides. And things were so destroyed that they were able to set up a total control grid from the very beginning. That's why the globalists want to destroy everything economically here. Because it's about total control. So the only way out, you think it's fun risking my life, and believe me, I am, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your prayers. Do you think it's fun risking my family? No, it's not. But there is no future. There is no future for anybody if we don't beat the scientific dictatorship. They are the worst of the worst. And there's no utopia. A lot of people say, oh, what are you going to do? The world's always been bad. No, it hadn't always been like this. There have been a lot of elites who were in control, but actually wanted to build up society and educate people. Those have been called golden ages in different societies. This is people that want a dark age, a technocratic nightmare dark age, where they enjoy all the high-tech systems, and then we, those of us that are allowed to live in post-industrial squalor for their power-tripping enjoyment. And I believe in humanity. I believe in life. And so I've got to not even bet myself and my family and my treasure and my sacred honor. It's not like I'm betting. I have to make the decision to be on the side of good for my soul. You can call it your psyche, who you are, what you stand for if you don't believe in spiritual issues. The point is that the decision is the most important thing. It's about what's in here, okay? It's about what's in here, and I have to be an example to others. I have to face the threats and the things that go on and move forward, just like Ron Paul does. Because it is in that service to humanity that we build on society and make things better. There were countless people who we don't even know their names, of every color and creed before us, who gave everything they had for human dignity. And we are the brothers and sisters of those people in eternity. The value of that to my soul is the greatest gift and the ultimate treasure. To be with the good, to stand with the light, to stand in goodness. In a wicked world where they tell you there is no good or evil. That is the greatest lie, to say there isn't good and evil. To say there isn't that choice and free will. All right, look, I've talked for 50 minutes. I want to give the number out, and I want to get to our top story. I've mentioned it some, and I hope it's not pearls before swine, because this is so big. You go to Infowars.com, exclusive military to designate U.S. citizens as enemies during collapse, period. The entire population is the enemy. Even mainstream news is writing separately how they're preparing for war against the general public. So the government's help with foreign banks destroy the country. Now they're going to pose as the saviors as everything melts down. FEMA continuity of government plans prep total takeover of society, dispatching military domestically under economic collapse emergency. And it's set up on the blue/red contingency operation of the Pentagon, where the United States under NORTHCOM has declared a war zone, as they've already told you, but that all U.S. citizens are enemies unless carrying blue team transponders. So, okay, here's the toll-free number to join us in the next hour. I want to hear from you. In fact, I want to do this again, but I promise I'm going to get to you quick so you're not going to be on hold. Police and military in the first 10 calls or so, the first few rounds, then everybody. I want to hear now that you see all this happening and these open announcements that the government will kill citizens, arrest. Now this secret document, they're now saying it's secret. It was on the Department of Defense website with a link to it. And then they pulled it and put a notice saying that it was classified last night. And we have screenshots of all of this, and we saved the document. It's up at Infowars.com. Now, Joe Joseph, and I'm getting him on tomorrow because that's the day he can take off early, works in highly classified areas. He's a former naval veteran, but he works in stuff connected to Space Command and a bunch of other areas, obviously dealing with satellites. But it was his wife kept calling in and saying, look at this, look at that. And I said, how are you finding this stuff? She said, well, my husband works at the Department of Defense. Well, I had him on last night. His interview, we're going to post